So our first topic today is solving trigonometric equations. So for this lesson, you will need an understanding of the unit circle, so just knowing the x and y values and where they line up with the pi values and all that. Another thing that you will need to know is the relations between the identities and how they actually compare to each other. So for example, the first one, sine, that is y on the unit circle. Cosine is x. Tangent is sine over cosine, or y over x. Cosecant is 1 over sine, or 1 over y. Secant is 1 over cosine, or 1 over x. And cotangent is cosine over sine, or x over y.
Okay, so our first easy question here is 7 cosine x equals 5 cosine x plus square root of 3. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to subtract this 5 cosine x on both sides, and that gets us 2 cosine x equals square root of 3. Excuse my handwriting. So now we have this 2 in front of the cosine, and we don't want that. We want the cosine all by itself. So we divide by 2, divide by 2. Then I'm going to go over here, and that gets us cosine x equals square root of 3 over 2. Now, you would think we were done, but actually no. So as we know, the cosine is the x value. So now we need to go on the unit circle and find all of the spots and the points on the unit circle where the cosine, which is the x value, is equal to square root of 3 over 2. So we can find those. These are all negative because these are the negatives. So on this side, you have right here, you can see this is the x value square root of 3 over 2. So that is at 30 degrees or pi over 6, and also at 11 pi over 6 or 330 degrees. Okay, so moving on to our medium difficulty question, 9 plus cotangent squared x equals 12. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to simplify, so we take this 9 and subtract it on both sides, and that gets us cotangent squared x equals 3. Now the next thing we want to do is we have this squared, and we need to get rid of that. And we do that by square rooting both sides, and when you square root both sides, you have to remember that this side becomes plus or minus. So you get cotangent x equals plus or minus square root of 3. Now, as we know, cotangent is equal to cosine over sine, so we can change this equation to cosine x over sine x equals plus or minus square root of 3. Now we can look at this, and we know that cosine over sine has to be plus or minus square root of 3. So if we take a look at the unit circle, we only want to look at the ones where there's a square root of 3 involved. So that is not including the all of the ones which have 5s in them on the degrees. So we can look at this one, for example. This where the x is square root of 3 over 2 and the y is 1/2, and then the x is negative 1/2 and the y is square root of 3 over 2. So when you have cosine over sine, when you solve this, you keep the cosine, you keep the x value, you change. So for instance, we can use this as an example. We can have negative square root 3 over 2. And then we would, instead of having this division sign, we would change it to multiplication. And then we would flip the 1/2 to 2 over 1. And then this would be set equal to the plus or minus square root of 3. So we would cancel the 2's, And then that would get us just negative square root 3 over 1, which is the same as just negative square root of 3. So what that means, and then we can see that this is negative and that's okay because this is a plus or minus. And so this one is okay, and all of the ones with cosine, which is the x value of negative square root of 3 over 2, those are all solutions. We have this one at 5 or 6, this one at 210 degrees, this one at 330 degrees, and this one at 30 degrees.
So the next problem we have is 11 equals 3 cosecant squared x plus 7. So the first step is to subtract 7 from both sides. You'll get 3 cosecant squared x equals 4. Then what you're going to want to do is divide by 3, which will leave you with cosecant squared x equals 4 over 3. Square root it all. So you'll get cosecant squared x equals square root of 4 over square root of 3, which is, not cosecant squared, and then which is cosecant x equals 2 over square root of 3, 1 over sine x equals 2 square root of 3 because of our relations between the identities. Cross multiply from here, which leaves you with 2 sine x equals square root of 3. Divide to get sine x equals square root of 3 over 2. If you look at the unit circle, where y equals square root of 3 over 2 is at 1 pi over 3, or yeah, pi over 3, 2 pi over 3. And that is it.